turned out to be a rainy week. I had every intention of keeping it low key and vibey, but I made the mistake of trying to get caught up on what's happening in the world outside my little bubble, which got me angry, and I quickly went from I don't feel like doing nothing to doing the most. It did get me thinking though, if I had to start growing groceries in 2025, what would I do? Let's talk about it. Okay, I've got my notes here because I feel really strongly about this. So I'm going to do my best not to turn this into an angry rant. So I have my notes here to try to keep me on track and not get sidetracked and all caught up in my feelings. Okay, so if I had to start growing my groceries in 2025, the first thing I would do is figure out where I'm growing. So for a lot of people, this is where they stop. But if you think about it, you can literally grow food or a plant in anything. An old boot, a bucket, a hamper. I mean, literally anything you can drill some drainage holes in at the bottom, or they already have it. Um, you can grow a plant in it. I promise. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy or special. I built 3 raised beds out of just some wood and some cinder blocks that I got from the home improvement store. Put them together and I made 3 raised beds in my front, one in my front garden, and then 2 in the back. I'm sure you guys have seen that on previous videos. And then I also got some buckets, food grade buckets, which is really important. You do want them to be food grade because we are trying to keep as much chemicals out of our life as we can. So collecting food grade buckets from restaurants and commercial kitchens. Pretty much all of them purchase like bulk supplies of pickles and sauce and icing and stuff like that. So think of your grocery store bakery, fast food restaurants. If you go there or call them and ask if they have any extra buckets, food grade buckets, again, you want to specify food grade buckets, most of the time they throw them away. So just ask. All they can do is say no. If you just go pick them up before they throw them into the trash, usually they're yours to have. So I've gotten a bunch that way. What else? Oh, containers and pots and things like that. If you don't have any like in-ground space to grow, growing in containers, most home improvement stores and nurseries, they throw away their nursery pots. So do us all a favor. Get it before it goes into the trash. So usually if you just ask, can you have these pots? Usually they give them to you because they're going to throw them away anyway. I made a connection with a local landscape architect, and he feels as strongly as I do about diverting waste. And so he saves all of his containers from their job sites for me to come collect, and then I reuse those. So I have hundreds of pots of all different sizes. The reason I like connecting with the architect or landscape architect firms is because they have a variety of containers. Typically, when you go to like home improvement stores and nurseries, most of their pots are like 1 gallon or less. Sometimes you'll find some 3 gallons, which are fine. You can totally grow in those. But I like to have space to be able to up pot if I want to. So by working with the landscape architects, I'm able to get larger pots, 5 gallon, 7 gallon, 10 gallon. I even got 25 gallon tree pots. So yeah, reach out to landscapers and see what they do with their pots. Again, all they can do is say no. So call and ask. This is important, figuring out where you're going to grow, because you need to determine how much growing space you're actually going to have. If you only have a patio or a balcony, I say only, but that's plenty of space to grow something. Because keep in mind, like, even if you can't grow all of the food that you need to sustain you and your entire family for the year, it's still super important to grow as much as you can for yourself. So even if that means you can only have enough space for, I don't know, 6 pots on a small balcony, that's enough to grow something. I think the part where we as a society really mess up is if we can't do all of it, we don't do nothing. And I'm suggesting that we do what we can with what we have. And so that's what I try to do, and that's what I try to encourage other people to do. If you can do it big, that's amazing. But for those of us who aren't able to just do it big, you got to work with what you got. And so figure out how much growing space you have and where you can grow. And I'm going to add to that, like what, when you're thinking about like where you can grow, don't just think about what you own or the space that you have now. Think about what your family owns, what your friends own, what that abandoned lot down the street from your house, who owns that and what are they doing with it. A lot of times, particularly abandoned lots, they're happy to have somebody just keep the grass cut, because keep in mind, in most places you have to pay to have the grass cut and keep it low, otherwise you get fined by the city, which costs way more money. So these people who own land that, you know, maybe it's been in their family for a long time, or maybe they bought it and they thought they were going to do something with it and then they ended up not, they still have a responsibility to maintain that property. And so if they can find somebody else who's willing to maintain that property for them and not charge them, a lot of times they'll let you do that. If you say, hey, I noticed you have this lot over here, the grass has been getting cut, that's amazing, but it's right down the street from my house and I'd love to have a space to have a garden. A lot of times they'll say, go ahead, that's amazing. They may ask you to pay the property taxes. In most cases, that's still way cheaper than renting a community garden space or buying land if you don't even have money to be able to buy land, to just be able to use land of someone else's so that you have access to land. Yeah, so think about that. Don't just think about what you have in your immediate area, but like, what do you have access to? What and who do you have access to be able to tap those resources as well and consider those as a possibility for where you can grow. Okay. So once you figure out where you're going to grow and how much space you have to grow, the next step, or the next thing I did, was acquire soil. In my case, I grow only organic because I'm really committed to reducing as much exposure I get to toxins as possible. I understand and I agree. Organic doesn't always mean organic, and we don't really know, and who can trust them. I get it. I agree. But it makes me feel better to buy organic soil, because at least I know they have some type of requirements that they have to be within the guidelines of, as opposed to whatever the other questionable stuff is. So again, it's about reduction, harm reduction for me. So, but you can do whatever you want. Again, this is about what I did. So I purchased organic soil. I just went to the local home improvement store, bought bags of organic soil for containers, and then I also bought organic bag soil for raised beds. It's important to understand the distinction between the two because the biggest factor is drainage. So they put different things in the mix of the soil depending on what you're using it for, whether it's in ground, raised bed, container. Some people don't believe in that. I do. So I buy the soil that is labeled for that particular thing that I'm supposed to be using it for. So if I'm planning to plant in a container, I buy container soil. If I'm planning to plant something in my raised bed or fill my raised beds, I buy raised bed soil. I guess in my case too, it probably doesn't even matter because I always amend my soil because I believe strongly in soil health. Like it's like the most important thing when you're growing is the soil's health and like what nutrients and things that are in it to enrich the plant and be able to have the plant thrive, right? Yes, plants need water and sun and all that, but soil science is a big component of your success for your plants. So I amend my soil. So I got the bag soil and then I amend it with worm castings. And I will try to remember to put the link to the worm castings that I buy on Amazon. I buy organic worm castings, which essentially is just worm poop. But that worm poop has really good stuff in it that your plants love. So I amend everything with worm castings. And then I also add vermiculite. I prefer vermiculite. Some people like perlite. Do what you do. But I use vermiculite mostly because of the sustainability factor of it. I use vermiculite. I also purchased that bulk on Amazon. We'll try to remember to put the link in the description, so you guys can order that as well if you're interested in getting that. Um, and so I add, I it's hard to say like the ratio for how I amend it because it depends on the size of the container, but maybe I'll do a video or something showing how I do that. But I basically eyeball everything. I add maybe just a handful of worm castings because it doesn't take much to amend. Handful, just put them in the palm of your hand and sprinkle it in, mix it in. That'll be plenty. As far as vermiculite, I usually just add maybe a cup at a time and mix it up and just kind of see how loose the soil is because the vermiculite is what's going to have your soil feeling like fluffy and loose to help with the drainage. So I just kind of mix in a cup at a time and mix it up, and I just keep adding until I feel like it's fluffy enough and I like it. There's no science to this. Well, maybe there is, but I don't have any. So after I've acquired the soil that I'm going to need, and don't worry about like getting it right. You're guessing here. So you never get enough soil most times for what you need. So you'll have to go back a couple times. It's fine. Get a few bags, plus they're heavy. Who wants to do all that carrying? You get as many bags as you feel like you go home that time, and you'll pot what you can with the soil that you have. And you'll need to go back to the store if you need to go back to the store. So after I've gotten my soil, I then work on a garden plan. So weather is a big part of determining what you're going to be planting. So you obviously want to take into consideration what's the current season that you're in while you're thinking about starting your garden. What zone you're in will help you get an idea from other growers, kind of like what they're growing. You can look up your USDA hardiness zone. Google's your best friend in all of this. And all you have to do is put your city or your zip code, and it'll tell you what your USDA hardiness zone is. I'm in zone 8B. Both my suburban homestead and my farm are in 8B. And so that's what I'm comfortable with giving suggestions on and growing plans for in like the southern region. So you want to consider weather. The other thing you need to do for your particular growing space is determine your sun pattern. Do you have a full sun? Like, does that area get 6+ hours of direct sunlight every day, all day? Are you working with a space that only gets maybe 2 hours of sunlight, or maybe it gets morning sun, afternoon shade? These things are important because that's going to help you determine where you're going to place your plants, depending on what the plants like. Because obviously, plants will grow, but if you put them in the conditions in which they love, they will grow better for you, and it'll be less of a struggle. So understanding what the plant wants and giving the plant what it wants is going to help you be most successful. So you want to understand the area that you have decided to grow and the sun patterns. Rain is amazing if you can get it, but obviously you might want to have an alternative water source, water fountain, water hose, rainwater, whatever you can get. That will be helpful as well, because you will likely have to give your plants some water some of the time, especially in the hotter months. They'll need a little help with some hydration. So after I get my garden plan together, the next step is to acquire your plant material. So that might be seeds, that might be cuttings, that might be plant starts. I prefer to grow from seed and cuttings. One, it's cheaper and I'm a cheapskate. But also cheapskate. I don't know. Anyway, I'm cheap, thrifty. I'm thrifty. So I prefer to grow from seed and cuttings. It's the least expensive option for starting plants. I also believe it's the healthiest way to start plants because my plants are acclimated to my conditions, my growing conditions. I'm not purchasing a plant from somewhere that maybe it's been getting water every day, or maybe the temperature was different there than it is in my environment. So I prefer to grow plants from babies and have them kind of get acclimated to my space. So I believe they're tougher, basically, if you grow them from seed and cuttings. Obviously, seed and cuttings, that's an investment in time. So you save money, but it definitely requires more time because you're starting from the beginning, essentially. So if you don't have time, you have to look at acquiring plant starts. Obviously, friends and family is a great place. Local nurseries, big box stores. I also suggest buy nothing groups. I think the dollar store has plants sometimes too. Garden clubs. Oh, your local library often has seed banks, so you can get some seeds from there. Maybe your local ag extension office, sometimes they have plant giveaways and seed giveaways and things like that. So definitely, like I said, with as far as getting access to land, this is another area where you want to be resourceful and not just think about like what you have, but what do other people have in your network or around you. Or like I've asked my neighbor before to get a cutting from a plant that she had growing in her front yard that I didn't have, and she was like, "Go ahead, like they're growing everywhere. Like take as much as you want." So if you see something growing that you want or that you'd like to try growing, ask someone if you can have it, or better yet, find a public location, um, and just take a cutting or dig up a little one. I don't know if that's legal or not. I've totally done it more than 10 years ago, so statute of limitation. But taking cuttings from public places, roadsides, I've definitely dug up plants before that I found that I thought were nice and I wanted to add to my garden. Obviously, don't take too much. All you need is one or two plants. Don't take all of it. Leave it with nature, as much as you can. So don't get greedy. After I acquired my plants and seeds and things, the last step really is just to get growing. I mean, don't overcomplicate this. And most importantly, like nature waits for no one, and there's seasons for things. Again, you want to give your plant the ideal conditions to grow. So you want to make sure, like if you're starting your garden in the summer, don't try growing winter plants. Like it's not winter. You need to wait for the season. And alternatively, if it's full summer and it's July right now and you're trying to plant stuff from spring, like it's just not going to make it. Like save your money, save your time, give the plants what they want. So that's the biggest thing, is like timing. Timing is so important. But just put some seeds in the ground, put some plants in the ground, see what they do. You won't know what you're capable of until you actually do it, or even what's possible in your space. Like you don't need a lot of space to be able to grow a lot of food. There are a lot of things that like to grow close together, or things that are smaller in structure that are highly productive. Man, I would actually love to do an IG, or not IG, a YouTube live about this, because I feel like it's more than I could fit into a video. Like, there's just so many complexities about it, and obviously I could talk about this for days. I'd love to do a live once I hit the minimum subscribers that YouTube requires. I'll definitely do it. I mean, I guess if people are interested in it, or maybe I'm just rambling to myself because this was on my heart to talk about. But if others are interested in it, I would love to do a live and maybe bring some people on screen to like help address your particular issues. Maybe talk through some suggestions and things like that. In previous videos, I have given, kind of little mini tours of what I'm growing in my small space here at the suburban homestead. Off the top of my head, I'm just thinking, bunching onions are amazing. They love to grow super close together, highly productive. They're perennial, so they come back every year. You don't have to replant them or any of that, and very, very low maintenance. Like I literally do nothing. Garlic chives are another one. Again, super low maintenance, drought tolerant. It's a perennial. It comes back every year. You don't have to do anything. Both of those two also are prolific with seed production. So I've been able to at least quadruple my plants just from them setting seeds and wanting to, spread their seed everywhere. They produce a lot of seed. So you're able to share with other people or expand your garden very easily just from a few plants. Garlic chives, edible flowers. Another component for me that I failed to mention, that I have a HOA. I don't know if other people have this same joy that I do, of having to do what you feel like you need to do for yourself while appeasing your homeowners association. So what I have found is that my HOA really just cares if it looks pretty. So one of the ways that I'm able to be allowed to continue to grow food for myself here in my suburban community is by making it look pretty. And edible flowers is a big part of that. So not only obviously can you eat them, beautiful decoration, the pollinators love them, and your HOA is happy. So I like nasturtium, Any plant that flowers, like to set seed, those are also edible, like broccolis and kale and leafy greens. They'll eventually make flowers. Those flowers are edible. There's a ton of edible flowers. Calendula. I won't even list them. Google. I'm gonna have you Google that one. But edible flowers is a big part of what I edible and beneficial, I'll say, because even if I can't eat it, I'm happy to feed the pollinators. So I grow sunflowers, 4 o'clock flowers for the nocturnal pollinators. There's just a lot of other benefits besides whether you can eat it. So you want to put flowers into your landscape as well when you're planting your garden. If you have an HOA or if you even care what it looks like, it's just nice to have flowers as well. And of course, you want to feed nature and yourself. So it's a win-win. I forgot what I was talking about. Getting growing, not overthinking it. Oh, things I love. Edible flowers. Wait, I made a list. See, this is why I make lists, because I go all over the place. Oh yeah, berries. So fruit production. If you don't have a lot of space, you can't put trees in the ground, things like that. Berries love growing in containers. They will produce, again, heavy producers. Obviously, you need multiple plants to have a lot of them. But again, if you can just even grow a few to have a couple, snacks or something with your breakfast on the side, it's just a nice treat. And again, you're not just dependent on the grocery store. So berries are amazing. I like to grow strawberries. They're perennial. They're super easy, low maintenance. Are we catching the trend here? I'm a little lazy with my growing practices. Not lazy, efficient. I'm efficient. I prefer to not have high maintenance plants, just like I don't like high maintenance people. So most of the stuff that I'm going to suggest don't need a whole lot of babying because I don't do that. But strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, all can grow in containers. 5 gallons, 7 gallons, plenty of space. Blueberries maybe to like 10 gallons because blueberries don't go deep with their roots, they go wide. Raspberries is kind of the same as well, but 10 gallons should do it. A 10-gallon container should be plenty of space, and you'll get fruit. Again, all of these are perennial. That means you don't have to plant them every year. They will just keep growing back on their own as long as you give them what they want. Water, sun, warmth. They'll do just fine, and you don't have to keep planting them every year, and they are just productive. Culinary and medicinal herbs are a big part of my suburban gardens. I like to grow oregano, mint for sure. I love mint. I'm obsessed actually with mint. So mint, Cuban oregano, basil, feverfew, wormwood. I don't know. Lots of herbs for culinary purposes as well as medicinal. Can grow in compact spaces. They grow low. So again, if you're needing to appease an HOA, they're not huge. They like to stay small, more like close to the ground covering. So it's easy to keep them neat, air quotes. And I'm trying to think what else I grow. Oh, the other one I was thinking too is lemon balm. Oh man, if you don't have enough space to grow like a lemon tree or any other kind of citrus, it could just be me, but lemon balm, it it does the trick for me. It tastes very, very strong in lemony taste. And so I use lemon balm dried and fresh for basically anything I want to substitute lemons for. So I put it in my teas. I'll put it in like icing if I'm making like a citrusy kind of icing for a cake or something. I'll grind it up and put it in there. Lemon balm is amazing. So that's another one, an herb that I grow here at the suburban homestead because it's, again, super easy, low maintenance, perennial. Don't have to plant every year, all of those. Leafy greens are another thing I grow here. Think kale, lettuce, mustard greens, all those. I like to grow those. Again, most people can't identify that. Like if your HOA is walking by or doing inspections or whatever, they just look like leaves, which they're fine with that. Or at least my HOA has been fine with that. Legumes. is the other thing. So this is beans and peas. I like bush beans, pole beans, and broad beans. Again, depending on the season and what space you have, I'm able to grow a variety of both of those depending on like where I put them, whether they're in the front garden or in the back garden. Beans grow quickly, easily, and they put off a lot as well. And of course, you can eat the beans fresh, or you can preserve them and save them for later and eat them in the off season. So, beans are really good. I also like root crops. Oh yeah, this is like game changer. This changed the game for me as far as growing in an HOA community because the fruit, the main part of, or not the fruit, the vegetable, the main part of the plant grows underground, so it's very discreet. So no one even knows. So when I'm growing like beets and turnips and carrots, all you see are the fluffy, beautiful green tops. No one even knows that there's a delicious root crop growing underneath there until I harvest. So that has changed the game for me. I did turnips, carrots, and radishes out here in the front garden, and then I did beets and radishes and carrots in the back garden. Again, no one can tell because it's just beautiful greenery growing, and it's a delicious thing to be able to harvest out of your front or back garden. Those also grow in containers really well. So if you've got grow bags or pots or whatever, they'll grow in those as well. All of these, everything I have listed and told you all, will grow in containers. You don't need in-ground space. You don't need acres. You don't need a whole bunch of land. You just need a couple pots or raised beds, whatever you have access to. And the last thing I will mention is if you have a little bit of more space, or even if you don't have an HOA, God bless you. I'm so jealous. I'm getting there though. I'm getting there. But if you don't have to worry about all of that and you've got more space, I highly suggest growing fruit trees. Again, perennial, low maintenance, can grow in containers, but can also grow in pots. Citrus, figs, apples. I probably wouldn't do a pear. But anyway, you can Google it. But there's lots of fruit trees that will grow. Oh, mulberries. I'm going to go back to my berry suggestion. Mulberries are in my berry category as well. Will grow in pots, perennial. Mulberries are amazing. But yeah, fruit trees are great if you have a little more space or extra containers to grow. I highly suggest growing fruit trees. And then, lastly, I know I said the last one was the last one, right? But this is for real, the last one. If you don't have to hide your production, you can also grow tomatoes and eggplants and peppers. Those are great. I have done peppers with my HOA and nobody noticed or cared, mostly because I had it kind of sheltered by other larger plants that were growing around it. And usually when peppers grow, the leaves grow like down and kind of cover the actual peppers hanging off the plant. So you can't really see it usually unless you kind of go under and kind of, dig through the jungle to find your peppers. So peppers have been a discrete plant that I've been able to grow here. I've also done eggplants. I was pushing it. I also did a cantaloupe, which that was my mistake. I thought it was something else. But anyway, I did it. No one noticed. Again, mostly because I have larger things growing around it. Like I have placed rose bushes in the front garden, which is the most accessible to my community and my HOA is my front yard. And so I have rose bushes there, which grow really tall. I also have echinacea, which grows really tall as well and is beneficial for medicinal purposes. But both of those grow like kind of big and bushy and provide some shade for my plants and also some discretion for me to plug some other things in that I might be pushing the bounds a little bit on, but that I want to try growing in my conditions. So I just encourage everyone to like get growing. Like this is not the time to overthink or like do a whole bunch of research. You need to do a little research. Again, Google's your best friend, but it don't take that much. Like you should be planting something this week. Like within the next few days, you should be planting something, putting some seeds in the ground, plugging a plant somewhere, even if you just start with one container of something, like, but you got to grow something. Like you want to not be solely dependent on anyone for anything, honestly, but certainly not the government or big business, big ag, none of them to provide for you or your family. Like you want to be taking some steps towards self-sufficiency and self-reliance. Again, it's a process. You're not going to be able, I mean, well, I won't say you won't, but it's challenging to expect for you to be able to provide all of your food needs from now, day one. Like if you were just starting in 2025, that's a big push. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that you do what you can with what you have and provide for yourself what you can right now. Start small, but definitely start. Like I said, you don't need access to land, but obviously, if you have access to land, that's amazing. Like the more space you have, the more food you can grow. That's why I'm in the process of working to acquire some rural acreage for myself because I want to be able to grow more. Like I'm grateful for what I have, but I know I want to provide for myself more food, and there's things that I just can't grow with the space that I have. So more space, more land obviously does equal more food, but just because you don't have more doesn't mean you can't use what you have to provide what you can for yourself, you know? Like, so just don't get caught up in what you don't have. Just focus on what do you have and what can you do? What do you have and what can you do? And start with that, you know, just start. Start. It's in you. The plants do most of the work, but ultimately, like, we are growers. Like we've become so disconnected from nature and just our innate ability, but growing is in you. Like there's no question about that. And as soon as you start growing, you'll realize just how in tuned you are. So much of this is intuitive, right? Like you're going to feel your plants and understand what's happening and get more in touch with like the weather and just your environment. It all will just start coming as soon as you start. So again, one pot, maybe that's the challenge for this week. Get a pot, plant some seeds, start something, herbs, I don't know, flower, leafy greens, grow something you like to eat. Provide that for yourself. I promise you, like the first time you eat anything that you grew, that you were able to keep alive for a season, you'll be so proud of yourself. And it is so addicting. You're just going to want to do more and more and more. And when you taste the difference between the food that you grow versus that stuff that they have at the stores that they are calling food, you're you're not going to want to not grow anymore. Like I can promise you that. No, it's not super easy all of the time. Yes, there's going to be a learning curve. Yes, there are going to be some challenges. But if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Right? And we need change. It's time for change, y'all. Let's get growing. Let's go. You're only a victim if you choose to be a victim. Like, we don't have to take none of this. Like, we can provide for ourselves. Use what you have, do what you can. All right, I got to get back to work. This is fun. Hopefully, I'll have enough subscribers by this so I can do a live and maybe we can like chat and kind of like talk through some of your individual problems. So maybe I can help. Obviously, I'm not an expert, but you know, I've been growing for a while. I am a fourth generation farmer. I do what I can. So I would love to help if I can help you guys because I want us to grow. I want us to thrive and I want us to be independent. That's what our ancestors wanted, and that's what we should want for ourselves. So let's get going. All right, guys. Bye.